Hey everyone, I'm back. Thanks for watching my last video. For this video, I'm going to do a hair coloring tutorial. I think that was the most requested one from the other video. So, I'll be doing hair this video, and the next video I'll be doing skin. So I already have a drawing that I finished already, and then you're just going to want to put your base color down. Let me turn this down a little bit. There we go. So you just want to put your base color down, and then make sure you zoom in and get these little white spots. You don't want any spots left on your drawing. See these little white spots here? Just fill those in if you see any. Okay, so on the base color I make a clipping group, and I'm just using a pencil tool right now. It'll be pen tool or pencil tool for your whoever's using paint tool side. And then I take my second shade, so my second darkest color. And I'm going to start with the bangs, and what I like to do for the bangs is, this is kind of hard to explain how I color hair because sometimes there's not really logical reasoning as to why I do the things I do. Same thing for other artists. This is just how I do it personally. So I like to color from like, I'd say this is midway, 75%. And I kind of just make like, I don't know how to describe the shape, oh my gosh. I don't know, like a V, and then I color it in to the bottom. You can kind of just look at what I'm doing and kind of copy that. But also I'm following the flow of the hair. So I'm kind of just following the flow of the hair, like making V shapes. And you kind of want these loose lines here, like this one. And you just want to like, see how I made the V or whatever? And then I just kind of throw in these extra lines in there. And you want to follow the form of the hair and like how it's moving. And before you start the picture, you can decide where your light is coming from. So like if you want it to come from this direction and have it more light hitting this side, we'll we'll do that. Like I'm just gonna do like a basic, because I already did this picture, so we'll just have the light like source coming from directly in front of her. So you'll also want to work around that as well. But if you're not good with light sources and shading and stuff, you know, just try and practice learning about light sources and the flow of hair. But yeah, so I'm gonna finish this up with the bangs. And I'm just doing this on the bangs. I'm not gonna go like out here right now. And then after you get that color down, I like to take the color of make another clipping group and take the color of the skin and airbrush it. I use like a big brush, 300, 350, whatever you prefer, and brush the bottom up. I'm going to make it a little more saturated yellow. That was too white. You don't want to you don't want to make like, make it too white looking. So I'm just taking kind of a more saturated color of the skin, a more yellowy that fits the orange color. And then I'll just pick the skin color up again and do it towards the very bottom. I feel that looks best. Alright, another clipping group, and we're going to take the same color we used before for the second layer. And then this is also hard to explain, but I make these shapes here. So I start with kind of like a line, and you're kind of making like a square. So if it helps, you can make like 2 lines and then like a little V right here and kind of just fill it in. I don't know, it's really hard to describe, but if you follow the motions that I'm doing and the design that you see, you'll pick it up quickly. And I just do this because, you know, I follow other artists that I've watched them do tutorials on coloring hair and see how they color hair, and I picked it up from them, so. And then also for hair, you have to note like what's the hair that's farther behind is obviously going to be darker, and the hair that's more in front is obviously going to be lighter. So I'm just following the flow of the hair here. And I'm going to shade this part, because it's kind of underneath the bangs. And then we're gonna do more of those little shapes right here. I'm actually gonna lift it up a little bit. Alright. You kind of want to put these shapes, like you don't want to put it too low because you want room for highlights. I guess these are just kind of squares, like triangles almost. Squares and triangles, I don't know, it's like a weird shape to describe, but when you see it, you'll get the hang of it, you know? And I'm just doing it all the way across here. And then I'm going to do it as well up here. Don't worry about it being perfect, because after we're going to go in and fix it up. And then I'm just going to shade the top of the head. This is like the top of your scalp, basically, like the top of your head, where the hair meets. And then I'm going to take the same color and I'm going to follow the flow of the hair, and basically we're shading, and you just want to follow like the flow of the hair and the direction that it's going. And then remember, like this hair is in the back, so we're going to make it darker here. So by doing that, it brings this piece of hair here forward, like more towards the screen. Same with down here, like I want this piece right here to be more in the front, so I'm just going to go around it. I want it to be over this hair in the back. So this is behind her back, behind her head, so it's the most dark, and it makes it have a shadow because it's supposed to. So that brings out the hair in the front. And I'm gonna do that right here as well. And I'm just following the flow of the hair again. I don't want a shadow there because that should come out in the front. So just think about like this piece of hair here. This part is gonna have the shadow because it's more like it's turned and it's more towards her head, and this is on the outside, so where the light is hitting. And since this piece is underneath this piece, I'm putting a little shadow of the shape of the piece on top of it. Anything in the back or underneath you want to just color in dark. And for pieces of hair like this, you know, I just color them. I just shade them like that, you know. The side that's closest to the hair and not the outside gets shaded. I don't know if that helps, but... And also if you ever need to come back, like we're going to use probably about 2 or 3 more colors. So if you ever need to grab a color because you missed a spot or something, if you don't already know, literally just right click. And then if you need to jump back to a layer of shading, because we're going to have a lot of different layers, just control shift and then left click, and it will take you straight to the layer you want to get to. So we're just going to finish up this first layer. Let me shade over here. Yeah, the hair, the part that's going towards the outside is going to be light, so you're just kind of coloring the inside of each piece of hair. And you're going to make like quick long strokes that follow the flow, like the direction of the hair. I'm sorry if this isn't helpful, but I'm trying my best to describe how I do it. I guess I've done it so many times that I just haven't thought about it, you know? Alright, and once you're finished with that, you can take your next shading color, your a darker color, and then I'm going to go in and make the back even darker. And then I'm going to take this color and I'm going to line the edges of my shading on the bangs. I know that seems weird, but this is how I personally color my hair. Just like that. And make sure it's straight and clean looking because you don't want any loose lines. It's important for your shading to be crisp and straight, but we'll get to that towards the end. You'll want to clean it up towards the end. It's like a subtle difference, but it's noticeable, and I like it for the shading. I think it gives it a cool look. Oh, it's a little stray piece here. Oh, I'm erasing this piece. Is that supposed to be there? Okay. Same goes for the other shading, not just the bangs. Just follow the in-between spaces. Like, you don't want to go like this and line it all the way. You just want to do the tops of the shading. Like in between and in the cracks of the shading. I'm going to clean these up a little bit. Now that I'm adding the shading. See, when I make these tutorials, like, I discover things that I don't even know I realize that I'm doing. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I do that too, so I have to add that in. And it makes you sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think that's good. Yeah, I like it, I like it. Alright, next up we're going to take our next color that's even darker. And I'm going to go in the back here. And just following the flow of the hair. Since this piece is overlapping that, I'm going to do a little shadow here and make it darker. You want to make it look like hair, like strands of hair, but anime style, you know? I feel like the color is weird. Yeah, no, I don't like the color. Alright, that's better. Now let's do the next part. Yeah, I use the hue and saturation to change my colors. It's the easiest way, so you don't have to sit there and keep picking and trying new colors. And then I'm gonna take the, what was it, the third darkest color I think, this color right here. And I'm going to shade the tops of these darker. And then I'm going to take my water tool and kind of blend it in. And then I'm going to add a shadow in here. Just whatever is overlapping, you want to put shadows underneath. And you can never stop shading. Like, there's always more shading you can do. Like, if you feel like you're done, just pick up another color and keep adding to it. And because a lot of people I see, they'll stop, like, just right now, like, they would stop when there's so much more you can do, like, because they're happy with it, but it could be 10 times better if you keep adding more shading. So more is better when it comes to shading. I'm taking my darkest color that's on the board right now, on the picture, and just the parts that are the most, how do I describe this? The parts that are mostly in the back, the parts that are mostly covered, you want the darkest. So more more towards the edges, more hidden, you want to be the darkest. So it depends on your picture and your light source and what you know, but and kind of just keep color dropping like the colors on your picture and using that to shade. Alright. Now I'm going to make another clipping group. And I'm going to take the lines that I drew before, and I'm going to color it in a little bit, so like about right there, and then take the water tool and blend it out. Now you could do this when we did the lines if you choose, but I don't do it in any particular order, because this all just kind of comes like naturally to me. So sorry if it's kind of out of whack, out of order. So yeah, we're just from the edges, just a little ways down, and then you just take the water tool and brush it down. I don't know what that layer is. Okay. So just wherever you put your shading lines, that's where you want to do it at. And then I'm going to stop about right there. And I'm just going to continue to shade in here, adding more layers of shading. And take the water tool and blend it out into the other color. And when you're blending, you want to make sure that you're not over blending. So for example, let's do it on this. Like I said, we're just going to color it a little bit downwards. And then you're just going to water down with a big brush the edges. You don't want to water up here because it's going to give that look. So just make sure that you're doing it from that point where you stopped coloring, so you can get that effect without making it look like muddy and weird and over blended. So if you feel like it looks over blended, too muddy and weird, just make your brush bigger and try not to blend the whole thing. You might have accidentally blended the whole thing, so hair takes a lot of time and it's very tedious, so this is going to be a long tutorial. And it's going to be a lot of empty spaces of me not talking, I'm sorry. I'll try to pick it up. Okay, and just we're just gonna do these little guys right here. And each step that I say, you know, it's optional. Maybe you already do certain things and you just want to learn a few different things, and that's fine. Alright, I'm just gonna save that right now. Okay. And then after this, I'm gonna take, I'm just gonna keep shading with my darkest color. And like the parts that are most hidden underneath, like I've said before, you want the darkest. Alright. Now, if you feel like you've got enough shading down, like for the cell shading, for the flat part, then we're going to take another clipping group and we're going to take our airbrush and make this clipping group layer overlay. And then we're just going to take a big brush and take basically the base color of your hair, and this will make it more saturated. And I kind of like just to brush over where the lightest part will be, so that's kind of this area in the front, like wherever you want your light to come from. I like to do it at the bottom of hair, like bottom of pieces of hair. You don't want to put it on this one because this is the darkest part, like it's underneath, it's not facing forward. Like the front of the piece of this hair, like the front is facing behind her, so like more towards the side where the light's hitting. Sorry if it's lagging a little bit, I'm not sure why, but okay. And then after that I'm going to make another clipping group, and then I'm going to make it shine, and I'm just going to airbrush the tips of the hair here and the tips of the bangs a little bit. I don't want it too shiny. Kind of blend it out with the water tool a little bit. Alright, and then another clipping group, and I'm going to take my highlight color, and I'm going to make the same similar shapes that I made before. And then just kind of coloring the edge with the highlight. Same on this side. And just continue with the shapes all the way across. And then we're also going to put them in this open space between the two shading shapes. We're going to put our highlights in between those. And then I'm going to put them on these pieces of hair here, going across. And line the edge there. Alright, and then once you have your highlights down, I like to add like another clipping group and add a little bit of sparkles, you could call them, towards the edges of the hair. The parts that are the most bright and shiny, like where the highlights are. And I'm just using my highlight color. So I really only use 3 tools for hair, which is pencil, airbrush, and water tool. I mean, minus the eraser, of course. And I already added these in previously, but after you're finished coloring the hair completely and you want to make the hair look more loose, you could just go in and add these loose pieces of hair. And you want to make towards the hair, you want to be thicker, and then as it's going out, you want it to be thin. And you want to do this on the very top of all of your layers. And make sure that the colors match up where you're shading it at, if that makes sense. So like, for example, let's see if we can do one up here. If I were to make a piece that started here, I would need to make a clipping group for this and pick up whatever color it's laying on and airbrush it down so it blends in. Like that. So yeah, for any loose hairs, you want to do that at the end. You kind of just throw them in. It makes the hair look. It makes the hair look more like loose, and um, I want to say more real, but obviously this is anime, but more realistic, not as stiff. Um, yeah, and then after you finish all of your coloring entirely and you're happy with it, then you can just go ahead and make a clipping group above your liner, and then you just want to color your liner, because I've already colored my liner. Originally it looked like this, pretty black, and kind of dull, and it doesn't give as much life as when you color the liner. So just look at the liner and then check out the difference, especially for skin. It's important. So you just want to take your darkest color and kind of, you can use airbrush, but just color the lines that are around the hair. And then more towards the back, you can leave like almost black, near dark of whatever color the hair that you're coloring is. And then more towards the light parts, you can make lighter. Ugh, I missed a spot. How could I? And then that's about it for hair. If you want to make it look even better, you can go in on your liner and bold the liner. I have another video about doing liner and making it bold in certain areas and giving your picture depth and making it look better. It's traditional, it's not digital, but it pertains to everything. But yeah, if you go around and give your liner more depth, it makes the hair look even better. But you want to do that at the end, because when you put your color on, it takes away from the lines anyway. So it's gonna take the depth you thought you had away, and you just easier to do it at the end. Just in between. You don't want to do it too overdo it, like, how do I describe it? You don't want to be like, you don't want to do it too much and in too many spots. For this, you can overdo it. Like shading, you really don't usually reach a point where you overdid it. But for this, you can, there's like a fine line. So if you feel like it looks like too much, just take it away. You just want to do it in different spots. You don't want to like do the whole line like that, because that doesn't look good. And that's about it for the hair. After that, you can clean up whatever you want, clean up your shading, clean up the lines. Um, but hopefully that helped a little bit. I know I kind of was doing less talking and more of actual coloring and shading. But if you have any questions, just let me know. And thank you so much for watching. And good luck. Have fun.